Hi everyone, I just wanted to take you on a tour of the Savers in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. I just came from one of the best church rummage sales I've been to in a long time over in Anoka. I will link that video below. The prices, the people, it was just really a great experience. So I thought while I'm out and in the thrifting zone, I wanted to head over to this Savers. Sometimes you hit gold twice in a row, right? So today I did end up leaving with nothing, but I just wanted to show you and take you on a little tour with me and bring you around the store. So if you're curious whether you should shop here or not, I'd give it a big, big thumbs up. As soon as I walked in, I noticed the store was really, really well stocked today. It was neat, it was organized, and sometimes I have been into Savers. There's one in New Hope, Minnesota called Unique. Sometimes it can feel a little picked over, but not this time. Right away, I head to the books. You know that I love and am looking for that Martha Stewart Entertaining. I've talked about that so many times, the signed copy of that. I've seen that book go for as high as $500 signed. So I quickly looked through all of those books. And yet again, I did not find it, but I am on a hunt for vintage Martha Stewart, especially if you can get those signed. And you know that the hard goods section is my absolute favorite places to explore because it's kind of a wild card in the store. You just never know what's going to be there. Everything from mugs to figurines to decor, holiday, you name it. And one thing I always check for is ceramics and pottery. Anything that's handmade, I flip it over. I run my finger around the rim and the base. I want to make sure there aren't any cracks, that it feels smooth and finished and heavy. That's always a good sign. If it feels like light or chalky, that's more than likely going to be just a cheap reproduction. I look for McCoy, Roseville, any kind of signed studio pieces. Even unsigned ones can sell well if the glazing is interesting or even the shape is unique. I always take a peek at the mugs. I don't need any more mugs, but certain mugs can really sell. I look for vintage Starbucks city mugs. Oh, I did sell, and I did a video on selling a very, very large nutcracker. Go take a peek. I'll link that one below as well. Go take a peek at that video. So vintage Starbucks city mugs, Camp Snoopy or Minnesota specific mugs, kind of dark humor, handmade pottery, vintage Garfield or cartoon characters. Just avoid mass-produced mugs unless they're collectible or they have like a cult following. In the kitchenware area, I look at cast iron, vintage brands, things that are nostalgic sell. If you see a cast iron pan, flip it over and look for brands like Griswold or Wagner Ware. They're heavy, but they sell for big money. And if you're selling on eBay, you can choose to ship it either USPS or UPS, or you can choose FedEx, and you can add all of those options to your listing. On Poshmark, under £5 is a flat price that the buyer pays. You can also offer to give part of that shipping, pay for part of that shipping to help out the buyer. Anything over £5, it's up to you, the seller, to make up the difference. I do like selling and looking personally for frames and vintage frames, intricate frames. Now that I have a grandbaby, I do get a lot of pictures that are printed off for me. So I got rid of so many of my frames. Now I'm back to collecting a few more interesting looking ones. Vintage Pyrex is another thing that I like to look for. The older the pattern, the better. Some of them I like are gooseberry, butterprint, friendship. Condition matters. I avoid anything with heavy dishwasher wear or chips unless it's rare. I just picked up in one of my last videos at the Goodwill some of those trays, those metal trays. I picked up some red ones. It looks like I did not grab these, but had I found some red ones to go with the ones I found, I would have grabbed those. It's always a good idea to check the color of the things under bright lights. So before I purchase things, I will just hold it up in the sky, up in the air, under those kind of awful lights that they have in these big stores. But isn't this cool? I put this one in my cart. I bet it was a display for a Coach store. And I did carry that one around with me for a while, but then and that might have been a mistake. Was that a mistake? Should I have taken that? I tried to run a comp. Of course, there were just the hang tags for the Coach purses. There wasn't anything like a display. I might have made a mistake on that one. I had just come from that wonderful church sale, and I had so many things that I had picked up, and so many things that I was so taken with that I just wasn't probably thinking clearly. I might have made a mistake on that one. So back to what I look for, like in the figurines, they can be hit or miss. I always wonder, who collects that? Who's the buyer? But if I'm going to get a figurine, I look for made in Japan, Napco, Lefton, religious figurines like saints or angels, cats, animal figurines like cats or birds, owls. I will pick up that. Anything that's a little weird or kitschy that kind of makes you laugh, that can sell too. But you always need to check for chips and repairs, like delicate spots like on wings or fingers. Make sure you run your finger across all of those things first. Holiday items. I always glance at the holiday section. Yep, even in the middle of summer. And Savers did have a Christmas section set up here. Vintage Christmas, it sells all year. Look for mercury glass ornaments, blow molds, those big tall. We have one blow mold. It is a pumpkin. We still put it out, and my very, very dear friend Beth, hi Beth, if you're watching, she told me when they were looking for houses in our neighborhood that she saw a lit pumpkin at our house and wanted to live in a neighborhood that had a lit pumpkin, which I still to this day love her for. But blow molds, a lot of people collect those really tall vintage Christmas ones, ceramic trees, tree toppers, advent calendars. I've sold a lot of nativity sets. And Halloween, anything spooky or retro. Think nostalgia, things that people grew up with and want to recreate. Look at the clothing in this store. It's so plentiful, and it is really, really so well put out. And what I mean by that, if you can see the jeans, they're kind of hung sideways a little bit, and they're so easy to look at the labels in their slacks, their denim, their pants. Really, really a nice way to display. All right, we are heading now into the linen and blanket section. This is one area that I always make time for, even if I'm short on time in the store, because this is where you can find hidden treasures, things that people overlook, but resellers do know that you can find gold. So I always take a peek for handmade quilts. And how you can tell is by the stitching. If the stitches are uneven, or if you see like pencil marks from quilting templates, that's likely handmade. And even if they're not perfect, vintage quilts are super collectible. Some buyers want them to restore, they repurpose them, or they just like that nostalgic look. And if it's a window, like a cathedral window, a log cabin, or grandmother's flower garden pattern, those are really desirable. Always check the tags. I'm looking for Pendleton, Faribault Woolen Mills, Hudson Bay, Woolrich, classic wool blankets. There's one of those crocheted ones. They are the kind that Grandma used to make. They're back in style, especially this granny square pattern. Those are highly collectible. Wool blankets, back to them, they can be scratchy, but collectors love them. They're perfect for cabin decor, for camping. Um, I have sold, and Faribault Woolen Mills is here in Minnesota. I have definitely sold a lot of those wool blankets. And back to crochet and knit Afghans, look for clean ones with bold colors, no pulls, no stains. Even lap size ones sell well if they're well made. Another thing I would take a peek at is character beddings and sheets, vintage kids bedding, Ninja Turtles, Barbie, Star Wars, Pokemon, 1990s Lisa Frank, or Goosebumps. People use that fabric for crafts. They want to recreate their childhood rooms. Even flat sheets or pillowcases can sell if they've got a nostalgic or collectible print. I've just recently, like last week, sold a handmade Minnie Mouse, just one single pillowcase. I believe it was on Poshmark. The jewelry, one of my favorite places to dig for hidden treasure. If you're a collector or a reseller, or you just like the sparkle, that's where the good stuff can be hiding. I look for signed pieces, Monet, Trifari, Coro, Sarah Coventry. Those are vintage brands with loyal collectors. Some pieces can go for up to $100. Brooches, pins, all of those things I love to sell. Scarves are a really fun treasure. They're often underpriced, they're lightweight to ship. Look for 100% silk or wool. Look for a tag or a signature. Look at these. How cute are those? Purple vinyl, awesome boots. I love those. With the scarves, hand-rolled edges mean quality. If the scarf has a hand-rolled hem and looks like it's just been rolled and stitched uneven, that's a really good sign of vintage quality, especially on those silk scarves. And machine stitched are okay, especially on like 80s and 90s scarves, but hand-rolled equals a higher end scarf. So if you're walking past a bin of scarves, don't skip it. That little silk scarf might not look like much, but it could be like a $40 find. They're easy to store, ship, there's no breakables, very little measuring, just a pretty print and really a fun surprise. So I did walk past again all of the clothing, and this caught my eye. I thought, oh, how beautiful is she? Only $24.99. I thought that this long dress was just really striking. I really hope that the girls who go to prom are shopping at the consignment stores, because I think vintage, well, it's what I think, but I think vintage dresses or things like that just so beautiful. The last time I was up at this particular store, I found a Mickey Mouse fleece that I sold for over $100. But they have so much inventory that's so like high quality and nice. So you would do well at this Savers shopping any of the departments, anything that you like to buy for personal use or resell. Truly, this Savers is really one that I think you should add to your thrifting list.